Switzerland is one of the most uniquely ironic countries in the world. Even though it stays neutral in global conflicts, it still has a large army. And even though it is one of the most important countries in Europe, it is not a part of the European Union. But perhaps most ironic of all is the fact that even though it has some of the world's most iconic cities from Geneva to Zurich, Switzerland has no official capital city. Now, obviously, that choice is strange, especially because countries around the world typically have their largest or nicest cities as their capitals, which is how some of the world's most iconic capital cities have come to be. France has Paris, England has London, Spain has Madrid, and China has Beijing. But Switzerland does things a little differently. So, obvious question here. Why does Switzerland have no official capital city? To answer that, we have to go back to the mid-19th century. Up until the mid-1800s, Switzerland existed as a confederation of various states, and this meant Switzerland did not exactly have a centralized political capital. Instead, the confederation was ruled with political meetings happening at various rotating locations across this confederation. But by 1814, Switzerland transitioned from a confederation into a federal state. And even though the country had agreed to come together, there were two things the Swiss could not agree on: whether or not the country should have a capital, and second, which city should be selected as that capital. In November of 1848, things became a little bit clearer because the National Council of Switzerland decided that the city of Bern would be home to the Swiss government. Now, in most countries and in most cases, the city that's home to the government is typically also the official capital of that country. Think of America's Washington, D.C., which is home to the White House, the Supreme Court, and 1,000 other government institutions. Or London in the United Kingdom, which is home to the British Parliament, the Prime Minister's office, and the royal family. But in the case of Switzerland, even though Bern is home to the government, it is not the official capital of Switzerland, and it has never been. That's because neither the Swiss Constitution nor the Swiss Federal Council officially designates any city to be the official capital of the country. So in simple terms, nowhere in Switzerland's laws is Bern or any other city designated as the official capital of Switzerland. Bern simply exists as the seat of the government and nothing more. So how exactly does a country function without a capital city? In the case of Switzerland, it does this by spreading out the functions and features of a capital across multiple cities. So rather than have all of the political, judicial, and economic power of a country in its capital city, like a lot of other countries do, Switzerland basically spreads the love around. For example, while the Swiss Federal Assembly and the Federal Palace sit in Bern, the country's Federal Supreme Court sits in Lausanne. The Federal Criminal Court sits in Bellinzona, and St. Gallen is home to the Federal Administrative Court. But that's not all. Geneva is the hub for global diplomacy in Switzerland and is home to some of the world's largest international organizations and institutions, like the World Health Organization, the World Trade Organization, and the Red Cross. And then there's Zurich, which is essentially Switzerland's economic center and is home to some of the world's largest companies. Now, given that Switzerland's origins are rooted in several regions coming together to form a country, there is a school of thought that suggests that Switzerland's decision not to have an official capital city is down to wanting all of its member regions, or cantons as they are officially known, to feel equally important. But whether or not that's true, it's a system that appears to have worked out for Switzerland for nearly 200 years. One of the ways to further appreciate how unusual this is to also think of why a country needs a capital. In most cases, a country's capital is not just the seat of its government, it also becomes an important symbol of the nation. It's usually the city that's top of everyone's mind when they think of a country. It's hard to think of France without thinking of Paris, or Japan without thinking of Tokyo, or Russia without thinking of Moscow. Capital cities serve as a country's focal point, not just geographically, but also politically, and in some cases, even culturally. But despite all of these sensible considerations, Switzerland's laws are clear about not having an official capital, and the country has so far existed for all of its modern history without one, even though Bern is often seen as the de facto capital because it is the seat of the government. So if you ever come up against a trivia question asking, what is the official capital of Switzerland? Remember, the only correct answer is that Switzerland does not have one. That's it for today. Thank you very much for watching. If you enjoyed this, then give the video a thumbs up because that really helps the channel. And don't forget to subscribe. But if you're interested in why countries literally relocate their capital cities from one place to another, then watch this other video I made about that. See you in the next one.